Hi, this is your astrologer Kira, and right now I'm thinking, should I talk about the concept of karma, or should I talk about about Venus and Saturn in aspects? And now it's raining outside, and we have thunders and lightnings and whatnot, and I cannot decide. This Mercury in Taurus is making my mind. Also, let's talk about the concept of karma in the Western culture, because people could say there was this summit of popes. I know the exact names in my language, but I know how to translate it properly, so please excuse me if I do a mess with my words. And on this summit of popes, this was this great meeting, patriarchs and popes, about Christian church. And this happened in 553 Anno Domini in, I think, in Nicaea. And they had this summit for days and meeting, and in the end they decided that karma won't be mentioned when it comes to Christianity, although Christ have spoken about being born twice, and who hasn't been born before won't be able to understand some concepts, and so on and so on. We can go through it as long as we can. But before the appearance of Christianity, something happened regarding karma. And this is my video pro karma, because I will do the video against karma, and then you will say, aha, I never thought about this in that way. Uh, there is this. No, I have to tell you from the beginning. Amongst philosophers, the Socrates was the greatest of all times. The problem is Socrates never wrote anything in his life. This was done in his behalf by his student named Plato, and Plato was the second best philosopher together with Aristotle and the other crowd. And Greece in that time, this was 300 years before Christ, something like that, 350 years before Christ. Athens was one very strange place, because there were those 10 guys and they were holding the brains of the whole humanity, or at least Western civilization. And Plato wrote the book which is called Republica, or the State. I don't know which translation is in English. But in this book he described how Socrates and him and bunch of guys went to watch the Olympic Games. And then when games finished, they started returning back to their homes, and some guy asked something Socrates, and Socrates said, oh, there is this nice rocks over there, guys, let's sit there and then we'll talk. And they did it. The whole book is about, it's a huge big book. It's like this book from Diogenes Laertius. It's something like, but I read it almost 20 years ago, and I'm now pulling it from the limbic system of my head, from the back of my brain. So excuse me if I make some minor mistakes about the data, exact data. And Socrates, I'm just thinking, is this thing recording? Just let me check it. It's recording. It's very creepy atmosphere here because of those thunders. And so the whole book, Republica, or the State, is about that afternoon when Socrates and a bunch of guys are sitting on some stones in Athens and talking. And the book is like this, and I read it for months and months and months. And in that book, Socrates and those guys are imagining how the ideal state would look like, how the men will behave, how the women will behave, how their children will be raised, what kind of education their children will go through, how the state will be organized, administrative, in political sense, in defense sense and so on, and they went through everything portraying the ideal state or ideal republic. And I think I will die reading this book, but I said to myself, okay, all educated and great people read this book, you have to read this book. And I was in the phase of my life reading all Plato's books and learning about Socrates' life through Plato's books and reading all sorts of philosophical books. I was in my 26th year of existence in that moment, and I was flowing in philosophy, but it was useful for my life. And especially I had one episode when one guy tried to attack me in the street, and then I started to throw at him Aristotle's syllogism and so on, and then I started to ask him this and this and this, and 5 minutes later he was and he ran away. So Aristotle is the greater weapon than the gun. Trust me, you just have to know how to use him, because he's very dangerous. And Aristotle wrote metaphysics and so on. But let me go back to the Republic, and I hope you can hear me because we have the showering rain outside right now. And Plato wrote how Socrates is talking with those kids about the ideal state and so on and so on. And in the end, this is the beginning of the 10th chapter, one of the guys says, but what's the point? What are we doing here, creating something out of nothing? Why we are doing this? What's the point of life? And Socrates then told him one great story, and this is the first written concept of karma in the Western world I've ever saw in my life. Maybe there are some older scriptures, but this is the one I know about. Socrates then told him about one guy who went on to fight defending Athens. This was this military unit, and he told his name and his father's name and his tribal name and so on and so on. But the moment was that this unit of young guys who went to defend Athens, they all were killed, I think, by Persians. And I just heard some strange sound from my camera. I'm going to check again. Is this recording? It should be recording. Something is off. But let's do it. And I have to be fast. And yeah, man, do those cars in front of me. Yeah, shine me. And I'm talking to the driver who cannot hear me from this distance. Nothing, nothing unusual for me. And he said this story about this young guy, and this guy went to fight with his friends to defend Athens, and they were all killed. And because the fighting continued around Athens, no one from the city could get out and collect the bodies of those young people. And 10 days after, they were lying dead and starting to fall apart and to smell and everything horrible. They were lying for 10 days. They are all dead. All dead. No one survived. And 10 days after, the city people from Athens, they went out and collected their sons, and they make the great fire to burn them all together. And the moment fire started, one of the guys who was 10 days dead stood up, and he crawled out of the fire, and he returned back to life. And then he told them this story, which is the first concept of karma in the Western world. And he said, we were dead, and then we were taking to the river, I don't know, Styx or something like that. And he told them about, I think, 2 rivers or 4 rivers. There is always in the human subconscious this image of the heavens with 4 rivers running or the other world. And then we had to drink 1 cup of water from that river to forget everything about our past lives. And then I saw the wheel of destiny, and this wheel of destiny was round in front of me, but it turned into one point down there, so I presume that he described the cone, something like that. This is circular, and then it comes to that, and he said that point continued to infinity. And I said, aha, you saw the wheel of karma or the wheel of time. And he said, this one wheel, it had another wheel inside. And I said, man, did you see the horoscope in it? And then we crossed on the other side of the river, and then we walked there and did this and this. And then we had to decide when will we be born again, and which life will we take. And on that place I found out that the great Ulysses, the great hero, Greek hero, he was the great hero, and in two great Greek epics, and I think his name is Ulysses in English translation. And then I saw him choosing to be the plain woman, and the woman who will do sewing and making clothes for other women and so on, because he had enough for the hero life, and he wanted one life to just rest from the fighting and manly stuff and so on. And as far as I go, they told me that from time to time we take someone to see what is going on the other side, and then we return him to the living people so that he could tell them the story about what's going on up here or in the other realm. And this is the moment when Greeks first met the concept of karma, that when you die you can choose the other life, and you will return when your time is proper to finish some business here, or to just to rest. You are coming and going and learning something from this realm and learning on that realm and so on. So to get it short, this is the first concept of karma, and this 10th chapter of the Republic, written by Plato, is the best. I could read it over and over again. So if you are too bored to read the whole book of the Plato, just turn it on the chapter 10th and read that part, and you will be amazed how good this part is described and written. And then Socrates told them, aha, you ask what's the point? Point is you will be born again, and you will want to live in a better state, in a better republic, under the better condition, and we are doing everything to improve our lives in the future and to improve the lives of our children, because our children, those are us. So I will tell you that my opinion about karma is so and so. I'm not sure about myself, and I will tell you something, and Vedic astrologers will hate me about it, but I will do it in a separate video. And now I have the real horrible storm going on outside. So I will cut this video, and this is it for today. Love you all. This was your astrologer Kira. Bye.